Today, our Kansas Jayhawks will be wrapping up the regular season as we are headed to Waco to face off against the Baylor Bears. With a win, we can officially clinch a spot in the Big 12 championship game. So let's see if we can get the job done and set ourselves up for some postseason football. As it stands now, we are currently 10-1 and ranked number 13 in the nation, currently just on the outside of the college football playoff, coming off a really competitive win in the last episode over Colorado, 45-42, with a game-winning field goal as time expired by Owen Piper-Gerdes. There was no shortage of scoring in this matchup featuring two very explosive offenses. I've been critical of Shedeur Sanders throughout the season, but I thought he played really well against us. Travis Hunter was also very impactful. But Jalen Daniels had himself a day, 426 yards through the air, a season high. Now in the fourth quarter, Daniels hurt his leg, and that's going to carry over into this week. So we're going to have to be cautious with how we utilize him. Minus 12 speed is a big deal for a guy who relies on his ability to run. In an ideal world, we'll be up by enough in the second half to where we can get reps for Ben Masters and Isaiah Marshall. But with this team, you can never count on it. The real star of the show, though, was Devin Neal, who had 117 yards and a touchdown on the ground, followed by 11 catches for 177 in the air and another score. Over 100% of his yards came after the catch. That's 300 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Luke Grimm, as well, was fantastic with 161 of his own. And while the defense wasn't great, I'll give them credit. They were clutch. Over the final 3 possessions of the game, Colorado did not score. And now that sets us up for our matchup here against Baylor. Although I do want to point out that a number of the games did not save from last week. Our game did, but pretty much all the other ones did not. So the scores around the country, as you'll notice, are a little bit different. But I force one, so that way all of the results are the same. The rankings are the same. The Heisman voting is pretty much the same, with Kyron Drones in 5th instead of Trayshawn Holden. So even though the scores and stats from last week are a little bit different, the results are the exact same across the country. And here going into Week 14, we've got some big matchups around the nation. Texas versus Texas A&M. The winner faces off against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Notre Dame versus USC. I think that game's pretty simple. The winner's going to the playoff and the loser will not, being that neither of those teams are going to conference championships. This will be their last opportunity to prove themselves to the playoff committee. Michigan and Ohio State is very similar to both of those games. I think the winner probably makes the playoff and the loser probably does not. The winner of that game will also go to the conference championship against Oregon. And then with Utah and UCF, you'd think that would determine a spot in the Big 12 championship, but not exactly. Utah played an extra in-conference game, so because of that, they already have 8 wins within the conference. So even though they lost last week, they have already clinched a spot in the conference championship. The only way UCF, or Oklahoma State for that matter, can get into the Big 12 championship is if we lose to Baylor. So UCF and Oklahoma State will be rooting against us. But if we do beat Baylor, who obviously isn't great, they're 2-9, it'll be us and Utah in the conference championship. As for the ACC, it's Miami and SMU who control their own fate. Miami's already clinched a spot, whereas SMU does with a win. If they don't, NC State gets first dibs, followed by Virginia Tech. We talked about the Big Ten briefly, but Oregon already has 1 spot. Even though Iowa, Michigan, Ohio State, and Rutgers are all tied, I've done some simulations. I've determined that the winner of the Michigan-Ohio State game will go to the conference championship. So that means this is Rutgers' final opportunity to prove themselves to the committee, and Iowa. For Rutgers in particular, because they just lost last week, but I think they also have a real shot to get in, unlike Iowa. And then in the SEC, it's pretty basic. Georgia has 1 spot. Texas or Texas A&M will have the other spot. Oklahoma's really the only other team here vying for a playoff spot. They play against LSU, and if they win, I feel like it's a 50-50 shot whether they get in or not, but this will also be their final opportunity to prove themselves to the committee. So outside of the teams going to conference championship games, this is it. This is their last chance to show the playoff selection committee that they belong. And in games like Notre Dame and USC, Michigan and Ohio State, those matchups are going to be extra important because this is going to be your real chance to add a big-time win to your resume and prove to the committee why you belong. We're certainly going to be monitoring the Group 5 races as well. Right now, Tulane has the edge, followed by Liberty, Boise State, Appalachian State, and even Sam Houston State all in the mix. Sam Houston State plays against Liberty this week, so that'll be a big matchup with both of those teams currently ranked and vying for an opportunity to make the playoff. So before we dive into our matchup against Baylor, we do have some recruiting to talk about and a number of players who have committed to the program. The first of which is three-star offensive tackle Nicholas Perkins. This was a competitive race between us and UNC, and I know he was tempted by the idea of staying at home, but ultimately we were able to convince him to join our program. I've been looking for more depth on the offensive line, and I'm intrigued by his skill set. But he's not the only offensive lineman joining the squad, as JUCO offensive guard Cameron Hardrick has committed as well. We're going hard after JUCO players. This is our third JUCO commit already. I like the idea of getting guys who could be pretty good now with some early experience and could potentially still look to develop, possibly whether they're redshirted or thrown into the fire right away. Pierre Johnson, a three-star tight end from Omaha, Nebraska, has committed as well. Obviously, we got our big tight end commitment earlier in the season with Isaiah Lamore, but I think Johnson can certainly still have a role here as a secondary tight end, someone who can really block well and get some snaps in 12 personnel looks. So those three guys have now committed to the program, and this recruiting class is continuing to round out very nicely. I think we're at 17 total commits now, which is over half of our board. So the number of players left on the board uncommitted is going down very quickly, and I like where we're at here nearing the end of the regular season. We currently have 4 4-stars and 13 3-stars, but we still have room to add some good players with the guys we're currently going after, and of course the transfer portal, which I heavily plan on being active in. We currently have the 17th ranked class in the country, second in the conference, behind, ironically, Baylor. Even though they're 2-9, they've still had a very good season recruiting-wise. But nonetheless, we are doing a really good job here on the recruiting trail, and we have dove deep into the film of pretty much all of these guys on the board. There's still a few players we haven't gone over yet, and we're going to go over all of them here today. We talked about some of these offensive players in the last episode, and now we're going to look at the defensive and special teams players we have left. That starts with linebacker Mo Nwokeji, who's been on the board since the start of the year. We haven't talked about him yet because it hasn't really been a competitive recruiting race, but we're looking to lock this one up pretty soon. He's a 3-star athlete from Peabody, Massachusetts. That's a funny name. And Bishop Fenwick High School. Nwokeji is raw, but the traits are really exciting. He's super fast, he's super quick, he's super twitchy, but he's got a lot of work to do in coverage. Definitely a redshirt candidate. Not ready to see the field next year, but I really like his long-term upside. Kicker Anthony Escalante from Liberty High School in Frisco, Texas is up next. He is the 4th-ranked kicker in the entire country. Even though he's listed here as a bust, I think he could be our long-term starter at the kicker position. This kid's got an absolute boot. Now, his accuracy can be a little bit spotty, as is the case with pretty much every high school kicker in America. But, again, he's not going to have to play right away. Owen Piper-Gerdes will be back next year. But I wanted to get our long-term kicker situation sorted out pretty quickly, and I think it's going to be him. The cool thing about Escalante is that his high school teammate is here on our board, safety Adrian Bourgeois, also from Liberty High School, the same program that has produced names such as Jay Ajayi and standout Oregon receiver Evan Stewart. Bourgeois is an intriguing player. He's listed as a free safety, but similar to Javier Ayambadejo, who he had commit a couple weeks ago, I don't think he's going to stick there. He's not particularly good in zone coverage, but I like his versatility. I think he can play at a lot of different spots. Chip Calvin is a 3-star from Zachary, Louisiana, and Zachary High School. He's listed as a gem, one of the lowest ranked players on the board, but somebody who does have some intriguing upside. Not a lot of teams really know this guy at all. We're currently the only scholarship for him, and we think we might have found a diamond in the rough with Calvin. I think the upside with him is definitely there. We do have a pretty deep safety room right now, but I like the athleticism. I like what he provides in run support. Somebody who maybe could be a sub linebacker for us, similar to like O.J. Burrows. And then Gio Chinasa here from Flossmoor, Indiana. I feel like that's what my dentist tells me every few months. We haven't scouted him yet, and unfortunately he's listed as a bust, but I'm still intrigued by him. Pretty much a top 500 player in the nation. playing for St. Ignatius High School just outside of Flossmoor in Chicago. Michigan has just offered a scholarship, so it's now going to be a two-way race, and if the Wolverines are seriously interested, I don't love our chances, but hopefully they don't go after him too hard and we'll be able to land him. Now we've got to figure out how we're going to use our points, and of course we still can't offer visits because, well, we don't have any weeks these guys can come in. Philip Olawale is about to commit, and I do want him to come to our program, but I want to save space on the board for the transfer portal. And because we're the only team interested in him, I'm going to take him off the board for right now. I imagine we're going to keep our lead for a while, so that's why I'm going to take the gamble and do it. We're also going to take our points off of Mo Nwokeji and Anthony Escalante because, again, we're going to wrap up those commitments really soon. But I don't want them to be too soon in case I want to take them off the board as well for more space in the transfer portal. I do want to get all of these guys, but I'm okay waiting and having them commit closer to the offseason. So with that, let's take a look at Baylor, who's 2-9, 1-8 in conference. They've only beaten one FBS opponent this year, that being BYU. But kind of similarly to BYU, they've played up to their competition. Week 2 at Utah, lost by 6. Air Force is a tough team, only lost by 2. Colorado lost by 7. Texas Tech lost by 6 on the road. Oklahoma State only lost by 7. TCU only lost by 4. Now, they have had 2 consecutive duds, losing to West Virginia and Houston in back-to-back weeks. There's the forced win in the Houston game because, again, it didn't save. Houston obviously won the original matchup. So I don't want to take these guys lightly because, again, we saw a similar team with BYU, and we lost that game. We don't want that to happen again. As we look at this Baylor squad, they've got some talent, but certainly are not top-heavy. One of their highest-rated players is senior quarterback Daquan Finn, who really hasn't been that bad this year considering, well, the team is 2-9. Dominic Richardson and Richard Reese lead the backfield with a solid receiving core led by Monterey Baldwin, Ashton Hawkins, and Katron Jackson Jr. Defensively, they've got a pretty good corner tandem, but the rest of their defense is certainly lacking. Now, interestingly, Baylor is rated as a team higher than us. That doesn't really make sense. Their roster isn't better than us. They're 2-9, yet we're 10-1. So, I don't really get it, but I guess we're going to roll with it. That's more proof that we cannot take this game lightly, and we need to try to get these guys down early because, well, if it's a close game, as we've seen this year, you never know how it's going to end. So let's get this show on the road here in Waco. Senior day here for Baylor, their final game of the year, since obviously they will not be playing any postseason football, and the final collegiate game for their senior class, including quarterback Daquan Finn. We're looking to spoil the fun and win our 11th game of the year, and of course, clinch a spot in the Big 12 championship for good. Win and we're in, lose and we're probably out, and our playoff chances would be toast. Starting with the ball, Devin Neal with a nice juke move to open things up, and he gets 15, picking right up where he left off last week, again with nearly 300 all-purpose yards. 3rd and 10. Jalen Daniels rolls right, has room, up the middle, and will run for a first down, getting 18. Good job there by Jalen to step up in the pocket. Nobody was open, but he found all that rushing room. On first down, Daniels under pressure, hit as he throws, and it is caught by Lawrence Arnold, who gets the first down past the 30. The Jayhawks continuing to move it down the field as it's now 2nd and goal. Daniels under pressure, he is sacked. Stephen Linton brings him down, and Kansas is backed up all the way at around the 17-yard line. 3rd and goal. Up the middle. Luke Grimm. Wide open. Touchdown, Kansas. The Grim Reaper kills another defense. Kansas is on the board first. It's now 7-0, and we take our first look at the BYU offense. Finn hands it off for Dominic Richardson to the right side with a 1st and more. Wrapped up out of bounds by Devin Dye and Marvin Grant, but not before moving the chains there for the Bears. Looks like a speed option on 3rd and 1. Finn had a wide open rushing lane, but did not take it and gets stopped. Dakaias Brinkley, the standout freshman, leads the way, and the offense will stay on the field here on 4th and 2. Baylor has nothing to lose. I respect it. Richardson to the right side will just barely get it. J.B. Brown quick to bring him down, but they will give him credit for the first down. 2nd and 1. Here's Finn. Rolls left. He's got Monterey Baldwin, who is wrapped up just shy of the end zone by Mello Dotson at around the 1. Can they punch it in here to end the first quarter? First and goal. Handoff to the big man, Dawson Prendergast, and he is in for the score. The big 6'2", 220-pound running back puts it in for Baylor, and through one, we are tied at 7. As I said at the beginning of this game, I wanted to make this one look ugly fast, and that might not be the case. With only one drive for each offense in the first quarter, very slow-paced game so far. 3rd and 6, Daniels looks to the right. Under pressure, on the run, he's got Arnold. Breaks the tackle, inside the 35. Good play after the catch by Lawrence Arnold. That'll keep the chains moving for another Kansas first down. Another 3rd down, though, 3rd and 8 from around the 29. Daniels up the middle. He's got Luke Grimm with space to the right side. He's gone! Luke Grimm is him! Touchdown, Kansas! Luke Grimm legitimately has been one of the best receivers in the country over this last month plus or so. I mean, he has been unbelievable, getting open at a high level, whether it's in the short game, in the intermediate game, as we've seen on both of his touchdowns today, or down the field. He's been impressive after the catch, again, as we've seen on both of his touchdowns today. And now Kansas is back up by 7 on 3rd down. That one is broken up. Taiwan Berryhill Jr. makes the play. That'll lead to a punt, and Kansas gets it back. This can be their opportunity to really add to this lead as Devin Neal finds a little bit of space up the middle, and that's all he needs to weave his way through defenders, getting the first down. Now past the 50. Neal in motion. He'll catch this one. Looks to juke away from the defender, and here goes Devin Neal. He brings it to around the 25. Neal has had a few plays through the air already. Kansas continuing to utilize him a lot as a receiver. 3rd and 9. Daniels under a little pressure, misfires for an open Grimm. Would have likely been his 3rd touchdown reception of the first half if Daniels made the throw. 41-yarder for Owen Piper-Gerdes, the hero last week. That one is good. And so Kansas adds to the lead. They're now up by 2 scores. It's 17-7. 2nd and 1 here for BYU, getting close to the 2-minute warning. Here is Richardson to the left side. Breaks the tackle from Dotson and is wrapped up by Devin Dye at the 25. Good run there by Richardson. The Baylor offense looking for another good drive here. 3rd and 10. Looking for the end zone is Finn, and it is broken up, incomplete. And now Baylor will look to kick, trying to make it a 1-score game. It's Isaiah Hankins. This one from 42. It is up, and it is through. So Baylor makes it a 1-score game once again as Kansas gets it back. They've scored every time they've touched the ball today. Can they do it again? As Daniels in empty here on 1st down. Rolls to the right, looking to get somebody open. On the run, he fires for guess who? Luke Grimm for the 1st down, keeping the drive going. 3rd and 10 now. Here's Daniels now looking towards the left. Looking for a man open. Instead, he's going to run with it, and he will get hit, but not before getting the 1st down. It looked like Jared Casey was open down the field, but Daniels figured he was more likely to get the 1st down on the run, even if the pass could have led to a bigger play. Another nice run up the middle for Daniels. I thought we were going to run with him less this week, but given the opportunities he's had on the ground, he's taken advantage. On 1st down, Daniels, risky throw. He's got Quentin Skinner inside the 20 for another 1st down, and now Kansas has it near the goal line. 2nd and goal, 17 seconds left in the half. Here is Daniels, looking to run with it again. He's got space, but not much, and only gets a yard or 2, and the Jayhawks will burn their last time out. So realistically, they have to throw the ball here on 3rd and goal. Daniels will obviously look to throw it. Now he scrambles to the left. Looks like he has plenty of rushing room, and waltzes in for a score. The coverage there was good, but Baylor is not having any defenders spying on Jalen Daniels. I guess they knew he was hurt, and coming into this game, they figured he would not be effective as a runner. But obviously, they thought wrong. This was one of his most complete first halves as a runner and as a passer. 3 all-purpose first-half touchdowns for Jalen Daniels. And with that, Kansas will take a 24-10 lead with just seconds to go here in the 2nd quarter. Overall, pretty good first half. The offense was electric, 24 points on 4 drives. Jalen Daniels looked really good. Defensively, it was a mixed bag. Some good, some bad. Baylor has only scored 3 points since their first possession, so that's a positive. Things have trended up. I think the pass defense had one of their best first half of the year. The coverage has been inconsistent over the last few weeks, albeit we've played some good quarterbacks, but I think Daquan Finn is also a pretty good player, and we have shut him down. He's throwing less than 50% completion percentage. He's missed a couple throws, but overall our coverage has been brilliant, especially considering we really haven't gotten much production out of the pass rush. So let's go into the second half. Let's see if we can really look to add to this lead and ideally get some of the younger guys and some of the backup seniors some reps before this game ends. Baylor opens up with the ball. They're going to run with it here on third down, and Richardson does not get much. Kansas sees it coming from a mile away, and Caleb Purdy is able to bring him down for the stop. So the Jayhawks now have it on offense. Devin Neal smothered in the backfield for a loss of 4. Good play there by the Baylor defense. That's number 28, Devin Bobby. Now on 3rd and 14, Daniels floats it up downfield. It is broken up, incomplete, and Baylor will get the stop, forcing the first Jayhawk punt of the day. Baylor back with it. Here's Richardson up the middle with a 1st and more, tripped up by Devin Dye. The junior safeties had a busy day all over the field, flying around, making tackles. 2nd and 4 now. Finn under pressure. He is sacked. Dylan Brooks brings him down for a loss of around 6. And that'll bring Baylor back to the original line of scrimmage. 3rd and 10 here for the Bears. Looking to get something going here in this third quarter as Finn breaks the sack and throws it away. Now the Kansas pass rush is starting to do something, but Baylor would pin them back deep at around the 3. Now at the 7, Devin Neal with a 1st down. He gets around 12, and that'll get Kansas out of safety territory, and now they can actually look to move the ball. Daniels appears to be calling an audible here on 1st down. He looks to throw it. Goes short. Devin Neal with a big play after the catch, juking away from the defender. That was a 1st and 17, no less, after a holding call on Bryce Foster. But that doesn't stop Kansas from converting again. Following play, Daniels under pressure. Tries to run up the middle. How did he find that hole? What a play by Jalen Daniels. He gets around 10, continuing his excellent day on the ground. 2nd and 4. Daniels again with space to run. Baylor has to keep a QB spy on him. I don't know why they had all that space up the middle of the field, because Jalen Daniels will take advantage of that. Now nearing the goal line. 2nd and goal. Grimm in motion. Pitch to Grimm. Gets a block from Neal. And Luke Grimm is in the end zone. His 3rd touchdown of the game. That's a hat trick. Grimm appears to be limping off. It looked like he got injured as he scored. But nonetheless, it has been quite the performance here for the Grim Reaper. 31-10. There's the wear and tear on Grimm. It looked like he got hurt through his entire body. And Baylor gets it back late in the 3rd. Richardson with a hole here on 1st down. Gets it to around the 45-yard line. Good play. Baylor looking to get one off quickly here before the end of the quarter, and they will not. 31-10 your score here through 3. Another strong quarter of action here for the Jayhawks, looking to wrap things up easily in the 4th as they try to move up from number 13. And we're certainly going to move up at least a couple spots, considering Texas plays Texas A&M. Notre Dame plays USC. Utah and UCF. We're bound to jump a few teams that lose, assuming we hang on and win. 3rd and 8, nice conversion after the catch by the senior wide receiver Hal Presley for a 1st down. BYU now in the red zone. They've moved it pretty well here on this drive, slowly but steadily. 3rd and 3. Finn for the end zone. He's intercepted! Kobe Bryant picks it off, his 2nd consecutive week with an interception. And so the Jayhawks force the turnover in the red zone, and it'll remain a 21-point game as they get the ball back. And given where we are in this game, I think we can put some backups in. I want to get some seniors some run, and I want to get a look at some of these younger guys, including junior quarterback Ben Easters, who may very well compete for the starting job next year. Nice throw up the middle. That goes for a 1st down to Savion Morrison. On our roster, I think Ben Easters and Isaiah Marshall both will certainly compete for the job next year, as here is Morrison with a huge run down the sideline. Savion Morrison with a gain of 38 yards, putting Kansas into the red zone. Easters is more of a traditional pocket passer, whereas Isaiah Marshall has more athletic traits, more mobile. What a throw there by Ben Easters, threading the needle, connecting with the backup tight end Trevor Cardell, another senior who we're trying to get some run to, being that a lot of these backup seniors are not going to play the rest of the way. Here's Morrison fighting his way for a touchdown, and Kansas adds to the lead. It's 38-10. Savion Morrison's obviously had a role on this offense, but with Devin Neal gone, he may very well be the lead runner next year. So the more we can get out of him, the better. Baylor back with it. Short throw here for Richardson. Gets by the defender. It's a 1st and more for Richardson as he gets it near the 40. A mix of starters and backups still in the game here for the Kansas defense. Here's Finn on 1st down. Nice throw. He connects once again with the senior receiver Hal Presley, and that'll keep the chains moving for the Bears, who now have it at around the 30. Here is Finn looking downfield. He's got Presley again with a block. He's gone. Baylor scores their first touchdown since the first quarter. It is now 38-17, and the Bears will look to go for an onside kick. Again, what do they have to lose? So the onside kick attempt will be scooped up by Doug Emilian, the senior receiver, and Kansas will get it back. Even though there's not much time left here, we will get a quick look at Isaiah Marshall, the freshman from Southfield, Michigan, near Detroit. On 3rd down, his pass is broken up. He was looking downfield. I want to get this game over with now and see Isaiah Marshall in a somewhat high leverage play, so we're going to go for it. Short throw here on 4th down is caught. That's Morrison who gets the 1st down, and that'll just about do it. 38-17. Kansas comes into Waco and pretty much steamrolls Baylor. We wanted to take care of business early, and it took a little while, but once we got things going in the second quarter, we were really able to take control of this game and not let go. With that, we finish with a record of 11-1, and now are officially going to the Big 12 Championship, as we will have a date with Utah in Jerry's World for an automatic bid into the college football playoff. I'm happy that we were able to clinch a spot for good and hopefully give ourselves some more leeway, even if we lose that game, to try to get an at-large spot. Again, if we lost this game, I think our playoff chances would have been in the toilet. Probably no conference championship appearance and certainly no at-large spot. I thought we did really well on both sides of the ball. Defensively, this was one of our most complete games of the year. The pass defense was really good. The run defense wasn't that great, but I mean, Baylor was down. They had to throw the ball a lot in the second half, and obviously their defense did struggle quite a bit. We scored 38, but we really could have scored more. It's just that the pace of the game was a little bit slow. Drives for both teams took a while, and that's why we only had 38. Good game for Jalen Daniels. 3 touchdowns through the air, another through the ground. He was awesome with his legs. Devin Neal was busy again, while Luke Grimm had 5 for 75 and 3 touchdowns. I thought the offensive line was pretty solid, and then again, the defense was really good. Up front, it wasn't spectacular, but I thought the back end, the coverage, was outstanding. Really complete performance for the most part, and we appear to be ready for our biggest game of the year against Utah. But we've got to look at some of these other games around the nation, some big-time matchups, and for some teams, their last opportunity to prove themselves to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. There's a lot of teams who control their own fate. All they got to do is win out and they'll be good. One of those teams is Tulane. They're already going to the conference championship, but they want to remain the highest-ranked Group of 5 school. However, Memphis had other plans. They dominated this game, 34-13. A huge win for the Tigers. Seth Hennigan throws 4 touchdowns, a day 3 quarterback prospect in this year's NFL draft. We're going to have fun poking fun at some of these teams who have control of their own fate and don't take advantage. Tulane being one of them. They were the highest-ranked Group 5 team in the nation, and they kind of blew it. They'll still have their conference championship game, but they're going to need probably a couple higher-ranked Group of 5 teams to lose their conference championships. Iowa has a very slim shot of making the playoff, but with 3 losses, it's possible. After this game, they now have 0 shot because Nebraska would upset the Hawkeyes 31-14. The Cornhuskers finished the year 5-7. A disappointing season for Nebraska. They hope for a little bit more out of their 5-star freshman, Dylan Raiola, but it certainly doesn't hurt to beat your rivals to finish the season and kill any slim chance they had of making the playoff. Again, it would have still taken a lot for Iowa to get in, but now they're officially done. Let's take a look at one of our marquee matchups of the week, Utah versus UCF. UCF now cannot make the conference championship, so it's pretty simple. If they win this game, they'll be 10-2. They'll have a statement win on their resume, and they'll probably be in the top 12 and position themselves for the playoffs. So it's basically winning in. I expected this game to be really close, and, well, I was wrong. Utah mopped the floor. 28-10 your final. The Utes now number 6. finishing the season 11-1, 9-1 in conference, and they look ready for their Big 12 matchup against us. KJ Jefferson struggled, certainly a disappointing end to the season for UCF, who still had a very successful year going 9-3, but playoff now for them is pretty much out the window. Oklahoma State's in a fun spot, very similar to teams like Tulane, amongst others. They control their own fate. Oklahoma State does not have to worry about the conference championship, but they are ranked ahead of us and Utah. It's winning in for the Cowboys. All they got to do is beat Colorado, who's lost 5 in a row, and they'll be good. The problem is, things did not come so easy today for Oklahoma State, who I think has been the hottest team in the Big 12 over the last 2 months. They would be upset by the ice-cold Buffaloes. 31-23, Oklahoma State moves down to number 15, which positions themselves out of the playoff, and they have no more games the rest of the year. Shedeur Sanders, again, was excellent. Give him a ton of credit. He's played awesome over the last 2 weeks against 2 really good teams. Oklahoma still is a slim shot to get in. They're going to need some teams ranked ahead of them to take some bad losses. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Certainly a disappointment, because all they had to do was beat Colorado and they would have made it. Let's take a look at another marquee matchup for this week. The game in the shoe. Michigan and Ohio State. The Wolverines have 3 losses. The Buckeyes have 2. The winner of this game goes to the Big Ten Championship, and the way I see it, the winner of this game positions themselves to make the playoff. The loser positions themselves to be eliminated. Through the first few quarters, it was all Michigan. Through 3, they took a 20-6 lead with a really good showing by Alex Orji. The Wolverines would score again in the 4th quarter to take a 20-point lead. But it's like something clicked down the stretch for Ohio State, and their offense really started to get rolling after a slow start. Will Howard started to really perform, but it was too little too late. Michigan beats the Buckeyes for a 4th consecutive year, 26-21. It'll be Oregon and Michigan in the Big Ten Championship, and I think this win punctuates Michigan's chances of making the playoff. Unless they get completely obliterated by the Ducks, I think they'll still make the playoff with a loss. Now, interestingly, Ohio State only drops to number 10. So that leads me to believe that they will still make the playoff as an at-large team as well. So even though Ohio State's pretty embarrassed that they lost to Michigan, again, it's not all bad news, Buckeye fans. It looks like you will likely be making the playoff and not have to worry about a conference championship game. Now we've got another one of our big matchups this week. Number 1 Texas and number 6 Texas A&M. I think the Aggies are 100% locked in with a win. As for Texas, they want to hold on to that number 1 spot. And for both teams, the winner will go to the SEC Championship to see Georgia. This game ended up being as good as advertised. One of the best games of the year. I've been waiting for that huge performance from Quinn Ewers to show why he's been a Heisman contender and being looked at as a top 100 NFL draft pick, and today was that day. He was exceptional, but so was Connor Wigman for Texas A&M, bringing this game into overtime. Texas would start with it. Ewers dancing around in the pocket, breaks off at the sack, looking for the end zone. It's broken up. So now Texas is going to have to kick the field goal here. And so overtime number 1 starts with 3 points for Texas, meaning that the Aggies with a touchdown can win the game. Texas A&M knows this might be their only opportunity to knock these guys off, so they've got to get 6 now, and they would do just that. Reuben Owens with his 3rd touchdown of the game. Texas A&M knocks off the Longhorns 48-45. It'll be A&M and Georgia in the SEC Championship. Again, it's not all bad for Texas. They only dropped 2 spots to number 3. They don't have to worry about a conference championship game, so Texas will likely be the 5 seed in the playoff, the highest ranked at-large team. As for A&M, with a win over Georgia, they could have the case to be the number 1 overall seed in the playoff. Miami versus Syracuse. Miami has a spot in the ACC Championship already, but they can't let their guard down. They got to make sure they have enough padding in case, well, they lose that game. Well, unfortunately for them, they would drop their first matchup of the year since week 1. 24-21 against Syracuse, and the Hurricanes drop all the way down to number 11. A tumble for Miami. And a big reason why they struggled was Cameron Ward. He had a really bad game. A Mario Cristobal coached team wetting the bed in November tickled me surprised. Again, Miami still controls their own fate. They're still going to the ACC championship. But if they lose, they're probably not going to make the playoff altogether, which is crazy, considering coming into this week they were ranked number 4. Georgia just lost to UMass last week. That's a pretty bad look. There's no way they can lose again, right? They've got to blow these guys out after getting embarrassed against one of the worst teams in the country. This game ended up being far from a blowout. Georgia needed a fourth quarter comeback to ultimately win, which they would, 35-28. They jump back up to number 4 and will face off against number 2 Texas A&M in the SEC championship. But Georgia has not played their best ball over the last couple of weeks, and even though they are a lock to make the playoff, whether they beat A&M or not, they look a little bit shaky, I can't lie. As for Georgia Tech, they finished the regular season with a record of 6-6. I feel a little bit disappointed for Georgia Tech. It felt like they could have gotten a lot more this year. They started off red hot. But I will say, with Haynes King likely returning next year, he'll be a preseason Heisman favorite, and they could be projected to finish towards the top of the ACC. Another one of our marquee matchups this week, Notre Dame versus USC. Since neither of these teams will be playing in a conference championship, partly because Notre Dame doesn't have a conference to begin with, this will be the final game of the regular season for both of these teams. So it's pretty simple. Win and you're going to the playoff, lose and you're out. This game, like Texas and Texas A&M, ended up being a thriller. Again, one of the best games of the entire season, and it also ended up going into overtime. Overtime with a playoff spot on the line. Buckle up, grab your popcorn. USC starts with the ball, and they would score first. It's Deuce Robinson with the touchdown. They lead by 7. Notre Dame gets it. Jeremiah Love, what a run! Touchdown Irish. We are headed towards a double overtime, and Notre Dame will start with it. Riley Leonard up the middle. Touchdown Notre Dame. But here in the second overtime, you got to go for 2, trying to make it an 8-point game. Here's Leonard with a man in motion. He will keep it. Looking to the right side, under pressure, fakes the sack, but he's brought down. So now USC can win it with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Moss, end zone, picked off! Benjamin Morrison, the All-American, with his second pick of the game. Notre Dame, you are going to the college football playoff. 51-45 in double overtime. Riley Leonard with 5 touchdowns through the air and 113 yards on the ground. Miller Moss with the Jameis Winston special, 414 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions, including the one at the end to Morrison, which ultimately lost USC the game and thus ended their season. Rutgers, another team looking for an at-large spot, facing off against Michigan State. Rutgers lost last week, and they don't have a conference championship spot anymore. That went to Michigan. This is Rutgers' last opportunity to prove themselves to the playoff committee, and they would end up winning this game. Take notes, Oklahoma State and Tulane. 42-20 your final. Rutgers is now number 12, but since the highest-ranked group of 5 team is lower than that, rather than being the last team in the playoff, Rutgers is currently the first team out. So they are hoping someone like Miami at number 11 loses the ACC championship. That way, Rutgers can jump them and get the spot. I think it's pretty much 50-50 at this point whether Rutgers gets in or not. They're hoping for some luck during conference championship week, but if there is some commotion that arises, they will be the first team to slide in. Liberty and Sam Houston State, a huge group of 5 matchup this week in the Conference USA. Both teams, especially with Tulane losing, looking to be the highest-ranked group of 5 school, and this game did not end up being close. 56-14, Liberty mops the floor with the Bearcats. Kaden Salter throws 7 touchdowns and 3 incompletions. So with that, Liberty jumps Tulane, and they are now the highest-ranked group of 5 team. This means if Liberty wins their conference championship game, they'll be playing Middle Tennessee State. Then it'll be the Flames, who represent the group of 5 in the college football playoff. Number 3, SMU, hosting the California Golden Bears. This game ended up being a blowout, as a lot of people would expect, but maybe not the team you would have thought would have won. 31-9, Cal beats SMU. Now, if you're a Mustangs fan, don't worry. SMU only drops to number 8, so they're still pretty much a lock to get into the playoff, not taking a big drop, unlike Miami, which is odd because Miami lost by less. SMU might not have to worry about a conference championship anymore. If either NC State or Virginia Tech win, then SMU is not going to the conference championship, meaning that they will likely be an at-large team for the playoff. So even though SMU lost, this really isn't worst-case scenario for them. Speaking of Virginia Tech, they're in a scenario now where if NC State loses and they win, it'll be them going to the conference championship game, and they would take care of business here against their rivals Virginia in the snow with this touchdown by Bashul Tutin. Now, Virginia Tech still needs some help. They need an NC State loss. It would have been a lot easier had they beaten 2-win Duke last week, but you can't get everything you want. Nonetheless, I think the Hokies are a bigger threat to Miami in the conference championship game than NC State. But we'll be checking in on the Wolfpack momentarily to see if they get the job done, and we'll be going to the ACC championship game. I will say, though, with NC State, they're red hot. They have won 5 in a row. They started the year off really poorly, albeit they really haven't played anybody all that good during this win streak. But now they have North Carolina on the schedule, who's a really good team. This game's on the road. This is NC State's chance to prove themselves, and they do just that. 34-10, a blowout over their rivals, the Tar Heels, and it'll be NC State, not Virginia Tech, not SMU. NC State will be going to the ACC championship to play against Miami. Certainly a 180 after the first half of the year where NC State looked like they might not even make a bowl game. The Wolfpack have won 6 in a row. They're playing as good as anybody in the ACC. And if they beat the Canes, who have been sleepwalking the last 3 weeks, then it'll be the Wolfpack going to the playoff. With Tulane's loss earlier today, the door is open for the rest of Group 5. We know that Liberty is currently the highest-ranked team of that group. Boise State can become the second highest ranked if they beat Oregon State. Problem is they did not. The Beavers would come onto the blue turf and upset Boise State, just their second loss of the year, and second loss to a team located in the state of Oregon. 41-25. Obviously, it's been a roller coaster season for Boise State with their starting quarterback and starting running back getting injured. They've been able to battle with their backups, but unfortunately, their Cinderella run might be closing. They're still going to the Mountain West Championship, but they are now unranked, and they don't really have a shot of getting into the playoff. Good win here for Oregon State after losing their conference championship, if you will, or conference opener, whatever you would call it, last week versus Washington State. Oklahoma versus LSU is up next. The Sooners, with 3 losses, are hanging on. They're hoping that they can get one final push here, and they would win this game over LSU, albeit in a close one, 20-17. The Sooners are now ranked number 13, and they are the second team out after Rutgers. So again, if there's a lot of commotion at the top, as we talked about with Rutgers, Oklahoma very well could jump up. As for LSU, their disaster of a season comes to a close. Ever since they lost the close game early to USC, things have unraveled for the Tigers, and for their sake, thank goodness it is over. Mississippi State and Ole Miss, the Egg Bowl, or as I like to call it, the Elijah Moore peeing like a dog in the end zone, causing Ole Miss to lose bowl. Well, this year, Ole Miss didn't lose. They would end up winning this game against Mississippi State. Ole Miss, another school with 3 losses, another school who is hoping for a lot of chaos. They are the 5th team out of the playoffs, so it's very unlikely that they would have an avenue to get in. But I suppose you can hope and dream. It has certainly been a weird season for Ole Miss. They started off a little bit shaky, then they really played well towards the middle, then they lost a couple games in a row. And here at 9-3, I don't think they have a real shot to make the playoff. As for our final game of the regular season that we'll be covering, Oregon and Washington. The Ducks really don't need to win this game. They're locked into the playoff. They're locked into the conference championship. But they are looking for blood. After losing 2 years in a row to Washington, the Ducks know they cannot let it happen again. Luckily for them, it would not. 36-19, convincing win here for Oregon. And with Texas' loss, the Ducks move back up to the number 1 spot, and they finished the regular season undefeated with a record of 12-0, the only undefeated regular season this year across the entire country. As for Washington, the runners-up a year ago don't even make a bowl game this year. Honestly, kind of impressive. So the regular season is now over for everybody except for Army and Navy, and we will be covering that game here at the end of today's episode. Gotta show love to arguably the most fun game on the schedule each year. But here's a look at all the results in Week 14. We went through most of the top 25 games, but of the ones we didn't, Miami beats Bowling Green. Rice beats USF. Rice with a big conference championship game coming up against Liberty. And then looking at some of the Big 12 games, Iowa State beats Kansas State, Houston over BYU. West Virginia wins a few games in a row to wrap up the season. And then TCU wins along with Arizona. As for some other scores, here is the rest. We went through pretty much every notable game, though. Appalachian State winning, I guess, is kind of relevant. I didn't hint on that. App State will play Texas State in the Sun Belt Championship. The Mountaineers need a lot to happen to make the playoff as the Group 5 representative, but I suppose it is possible. Florida and Florida State also played. I don't know who won. I don't really want to know who won. I'm just going to assume that game was at 8 o'clock on like Tubi or something, because no one should have to subject themselves to watch that. Here's our new list of rankings. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we are now ranked number 7, a big climb. As I expected, with teams ahead of us losing, we were able to jump up, and we are back in the playoff bracket. We're listed as the 8th seed, playing against SMU in the first round. If we beat Utah, we will get a top 4 seed and a first round bye, now that there's no shot that the Group 5 champion would be ranked ahead of us in the event that we were to beat Utah. So there's a good shot if we beat the Utes that we'll be one of the highest seeds in the tournament. Here are your players of the week. Shedeur Sanders wins it for the Big 12 on the offensive side of the ball. As for the Heisman race, not a ton of movement for Jalen Daniels. He's still in 3rd, but Will Howard moves up to 1. I don't know how that happened. He had a bad game in his biggest game of the year. Quinn Ewers had a great performance, but he also lost and hasn't been that good this year. Dylan Gabriel slides to 4, while Kyron Drones is now in 5th. Let's talk about Week 15 now. Army, Navy, and recruiting. There's not really a whole lot to talk about in recruiting. Nobody committed, which is what I wanted. And I would like that to stay that way going into the offseason. So that's how we're going to utilize our points. And now for the final regular season game of the year, Army and Navy. The least American thing that college football could have done was force these teams to play at FedEx Field. That's rough. It's been a rough year for both of these squads. Army, I think, only has 2 wins. Navy only has 3. So it has been a disastrous year for both of these squads. But it would be Army who ends up getting the win here over Navy. I'm old enough to remember when Navy won like 15 years in a row, but it's actually Army who's won this game in 3 consecutive seasons, 22-14 your final. Both teams finished the regular season with a record of 3-9. And with that, the regular season across the entire country is now over. Everybody has played their 12 games. It is now conference championships and playoffs the rest of the way. For the Power 4, we've got Kansas and Utah, Texas A&M, Georgia, NC State, Miami, and Michigan, Oregon. The winners of each of those games will go into the playoff. And then in terms of the Group 5, Liberty gets first dibs. If they win, it'll be them. Then it probably goes to Tulane. Appalachian State, Miami of Ohio, and Rice all have a shot as well. I'm excited for our matchup against Utah, and it's certainly going to be different. We have not played against a team who finished with above 7 wins. Utah's 11-1. They've been one of the best teams across the country. They're the favorite. For the first time all year, we are the underdog, and I'm curious to see how our team performs in such a setting as we look to clinch a spot in the playoff for good. Hope everybody enjoyed. Next episode should be a fun one as we go through the Big 12 championship along with the rest of the conference championships, and we figure out who the 12 teams will be for the playoff. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.